Hello viewers, now let's talk about VIETA'S formula. Now that is one of the formula used when it comes to symmetrical equation that has to do with roots of a quadratic equation. Now we have a question here, given that the roots of x squared plus px plus q equals to 0 are alpha and beta, form an equation whose roots are 1 over alpha and 1 over what? Beta. That's the first question. Now the second question here now we have two questions, okay? The first one is that given that alpha is a root of the equation x squared equals to 2x minus 3, show that the first Roman numeral we have alpha cubed equals to alpha minus 6, and then alpha squared, which is the second Roman numeral, alpha squared minus 2 alpha cubed equals to 9. Okay, so in this case, now the first thing we need to do is to find the sum of roots and product of roots of the given equation. All right, now already we know that the roots of the given equation are alpha and beta. Step 1, okay, step 1 is to find the sum of roots, okay, the sum of roots and the product of roots. Okay, find the sum of roots and the product of roots. Now the given equation is x squared plus px plus q equals to 0, and the roots are alpha and beta. The roots are alpha and beta. Now, to be able to construct a quadratic equation whose roots are 1 over alpha and 1 over beta, now let's see how that works out. Okay, so we're going to use what we call the VIETA'S formula. So now, using VIETA'S formula, so we know that sum of roots, okay, sum of roots, which is alpha plus beta, okay, would be negative b over what? A. Now I use negative b over a. That's in the case of when we talk about, that's when we use the general quadratic equation. Okay, you know, now when we talk about the general quadratic equation, okay, we know that for general quadratic equation, so we know that for ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0, the sum of roots, when the root of this equation is alpha and beta, the sum of root will be negative b over a, and also the product of root will be c over what? A. So that's exactly what we're using here. Okay, so the sum of roots, now in this case, a will be equals to 1, then b will be equals to what? P, and then q will be equals to what? That c will be equals to q. That is when we compare this equation, okay, with this equation, ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0. So we're going to have a to be equals to 1, b to be equals to p, and then c to be equals to what? Q. So which means sum of roots will be equals to negative p over 1, and that's what? That will be minus p. Then the product of roots, the product of root is c over a. So c is what? Letter q. So that will be q over 1, and that's what? And that's q. So now, to be able to form a quadratic equation using these roots, okay, now to form the new equation, okay, we know that to construct a quadratic equation, the general formula is sum of x squared minus sum of roots of x plus product of roots equals to 0. Okay, so let's get the sum of roots using these roots. Okay, we have 1 over alpha and 1 over beta. So the sum of roots, which is 1 over alpha plus 1 over beta, okay, that will be, now we need to simplify this expression. so that this will be alpha plus beta over alpha beta. So alpha plus beta is what we have here as well, negative p. Okay, then alpha beta, that is the product of alpha and beta. That's what we have as what, q. That's the sum of roots. Now for the product of roots would be when we multiply 1 over alpha and 1 over what? 1 over beta, and that will be 1 over alpha beta. So the product of roots would be 1 over product of alpha and beta, which is what we have here as well, as q. So to form the quadratic equation, all right, to form the quadratic equation whose roots are 1 over alpha and 1 over beta, you know, here, like I said, we're using the word, the VIETA'S formula. All right, so then we're going to plug in the sum of roots into this equation. So we have x squared minus the sum of roots is negative p over q times x, then plus the product of roots, that's the product of 1 over alpha and 1 over beta, that will be what, 1 over q, and that equals to 0. Now we can, you know, when we multiply this equation by q, okay, this is going to become qx squared positive px plus 1 equals to 0, and this is the what? This is the quadratic equation whose roots are 1 over alpha plus 1 over, and 1 over what? 1 over beta. So, and that's question A. All right. Now the solution to question B. Now for question B, we have two questions. One is to show that alpha cubed is equals to alpha minus 6. And the other one is to show that alpha squared minus 2 alpha cubed is equals to what? 9. Now, and here we are given that alpha is a root. So since alpha is the only root which satisfies the equation x squared equals to 2x minus 3. Okay, so we're going to use it to show why alpha cube is equals to alpha minus 6. That is, we're going to express cube of alpha in terms of what? Alpha. Now, let's say since, okay, we're giving x squared equals to 2x minus 3. Now we can rewrite this equation as a standard quadratic equation. This can be written, now let's rewrite the equation as a standard quadratic equation. Okay, so we have x squared minus 2x plus 3 equals to 0. Now, since alpha is the root which satisfies the equation, so what that means is that we're going to have x to be equals to alpha. So when we write x equals to alpha, so this equation then becomes alpha squared minus 2 alpha plus 3 equals to 0. Now don't forget that we want to show that alpha cube is equals to alpha minus 6. So that means we're going to express alpha cube in terms of what? Alpha. So now to express, let me write that, to express alpha cube, okay, in terms of alpha, multiply the equation alpha squared minus 2 alpha plus 3 equals to 0 by alpha. Yeah, you know, when we multiply this equation by alpha, okay, then the exponent of alpha, as in this alpha squared, this is going to increase by what? By 1. So we're going to have alpha times alpha squared, and this is going to be what? 2 alpha multiplied by alpha, then 3 multiplied by alpha. So alpha times 0 will be what? Would be 0. Okay, so this is going to become alpha cubed minus 2 alpha squared plus 3 alpha equals to 0. plus 3 alpha equals to 0. Now, from this equation, we have alpha squared minus 2 alpha plus 3 equals to 0. You know, from alpha squared minus 2 alpha plus 3 equals to 0, we know that alpha squared will be equals to 2 alpha minus 3. Okay, so we're going to substitute 2 alpha minus 3 for alpha squared in this equation. So we can then write substitute 2 alpha minus 3 for alpha squared in equation, this equation, that is alpha squared negative 2 alpha plus 3 equals to 0. So that this will be okay, in this equation, alpha cube, okay, alpha cube negative 2 alpha squared, okay, minus 3 alpha minus 2 alpha squared plus 3 alpha equals to 0. So we then have alpha cube minus 2 into 2 alpha minus 3, okay, plus 3 alpha equals to 0. So this will be alpha cube minus 4 alpha plus 6, then plus 3 alpha equals to 0. So we have alpha cube, okay, negative 4 alpha plus 3 alpha, that will be negative alpha plus 6 equals to 0. So this is going to be alpha cube equals to, so when we move this to the other side, it becomes alpha minus 6. And we just show that alpha cube is equals to alpha minus 6. We just show that alpha cube is equals to alpha minus 6. Now, Roman numeral 2. We want to show why alpha squared minus 2 alpha cube. Okay, we want to show that alpha squared minus 2 alpha cube is equals to 9. Now we know that alpha cube is what? Alpha minus 6. And also alpha squared, okay, alpha squared is what? 2 alpha minus 3. So we are going to substitute for alpha squared and alpha cube. So alpha squared is what? So we have alpha squared to be 2 alpha minus 3. Then alpha cube is what? Alpha minus 6. So we are going to substitute that into this equation. So we have for alpha squared, we have 2 alpha minus 3, negative 2 into alpha minus 6 equals to, now we want to show why this is equals to 9. Okay, so we substitute, okay, we substitute for alpha squared and also alpha cube. And when we do that, you know, we're going to make the left hand side equals to the what? Right hand side. So this is the left hand side. Okay, so we have the left hand side, okay, to be equals to the what? Right hand side. So that this will be 2 alpha minus 3, negative 2 alpha minus 6. Okay, so this is the left hand side. This is equivalent to the what? The left hand side. And that will be 2 alpha minus 3, negative 2 alpha plus 12. Okay, now 2 alpha minus 2 alpha, that will be 0. So here we have 12 minus 3. And we know that 12 minus 3 is equals to 9. And we just show that alpha squared minus 2 alpha cube is equals to 9. The noblest pleasure is the joy of understanding. Bye-bye.